This is the RTX 4080, and this was released on November 19 of 2022 with a price tag of $1,199 or around 70,000 Philippine peso. 9 months later, in August of 2023, the card's base price was reportedly slashed down to $999, but according to some news outlets, it immediately sold out. So Asus sent us this ROG Strix RTX 4080 to make a review upon and determine if the lower price tag significantly increased the value for us consumers. But before we get into it, a short word from our sponsor. Tired of seeing this pesky watermark? Then come on down to GVG Mall! GVG Mall is your one-stop shop for Windows operating system CD keys. From Windows 10 Home to Windows 11 Pro, they got you covered. They are currently running their back to school super sale and you can save as much as 85% on your purchase. And on top of that discount, you can also use our promo code JEGS on your checkout to slash another 25% off on your purchase. Their CD keys are 100% legit, and here's me actually trying to use the CD keys I got from GVG Mall on my previous purchase. The keys are easy to activate, and in case you encounter any problems, GVG Mall offers 24/7 support. The link to their website will be down in the description. Now back to the video. As usual, let's start with the unboxing. Unfortunately, the review unit sent to us was already opened and used. So this is definitely not a first-hand unboxing experience. Right off the bat, I'm a little bit surprised that the unboxing experience was pretty basic considering this is an ROG card. You have the warranty papers, product card, quick start guide, and this cardboard phone holder. Underneath where the manuals are placed is a compartment which holds the GPU anti-sag holder and the 12-volt high-power adapters. The GPU itself is inside an anti-static bag, which is standard for most PC components. And if it's still not yet obvious, this card is enormous. To put things into perspective, here's the ROG Strix RTX 4080 compared with different Trifan GPU models. The dimensions of this card is really something you need to look out for because this will ultimately affect your build. The ROG Strix RTX 4080 is 357.6mm long, its width is 149.3mm, height of 70.1mm, and weighs in at 2.4 kilos or 5.2 pounds. So definitely check the GPU dimension support of the case you're going to get if it's capable of housing this card. I actually encountered some clearance issues during the installation of this card. I had to remove the 120mm fan at the backside of the Hyte Y40 case I used in order for the ROG Strix RTX 4080 to fit. The ROG Strix is actually a very rigid card. You can definitely feel the solidness of this build once you actually hold it in your hands. What makes this card so rigid is the die-cast metal material it used for the shroud, the frame, and the backplate. Now, unlike the previous generation of ROG Strix graphics cards, in my opinion, this one is a little bit conservative when it comes to the RGB lighting, as it only has RGB lighting at the ROG text located at the side and at the tail end of the card covered by this clear acrylic. As to the color scheme, Asus went with a black, red, and blue color scheme on the shroud, unlike previous generations of ROG cards where the shroud is usually gray and black only. So for the power draw, the ROG Strix RTX 4080 has a thermal power design of 320 watts and Asus recommends a minimum of 750 watts for its power supply. If you're buying a power supply with this GPU in mind, I suggest going with a model which natively supports a 12-volt high-power connector, so you won't need to use the adapter that came with the GPU. This will make the installation of the GPU convenient and will make cable management easier. And now for the part you've all been waiting for, some performance benchmarks. Now for our test bench, I used a Ryzen 7 7800X3D with 32 gigs of 6000 MHz RAMs. And as usual, you can always check down in the description the complete list of parts used for this test. We're going to start with some gaming benchmarks, specifically Hogwarts Legacy. On native raster, playing on 1080p and 1440p ultra preset settings yielded upwards of 100 FPS. Only on 4K resolution did the card fail to reach 100 FPS, as it only averaged 65 FPS, which is still very playable. With frame generation enabled, DLSS set to quality, and ray tracing set to ultra, the performance increased by 25% on 4K, while 1440p and 1080p still saw some significant increase in FPS. The RTX 4080 easily handled Forza Horizon 5, as native rasterization in 1080p, 1440p, and 4K extreme preset settings all averaged well above the 100 FPS mark. But with frame generation and DLSS set to quality, the RTX 4080 saw almost 50% performance boost. Now do take note that the extreme preset of Forza Horizon 5 already has ray tracing set to high, so all the numbers you see here have ray tracing already enabled. On Resident Evil 4 Remake, the RTX 4080 was once again hitting absurd averages. On native raster 1080p, the card was averaging 315 FPS, with 1440p averaging 233 FPS and 4K averaging 113 FPS. Since this game doesn't support DLSS and only has FSR, I only tested it with ray tracing and I didn't bother enabling FSR. With ray tracing set to high, the card was still averaging crazy numbers, which shows this card is capable of running the high setting of ray tracing even without upscaling. Jumping to The Last of Us Part 1, which is notoriously known for its unoptimization, especially during its launch. The RTX 4080 was still averaging decent numbers. On native raster, it managed to average 60 FPS on 4K ultra settings. Unfortunately, this game doesn't support ray tracing, so I was only able to test it with DLSS aside from testing native rasterization. With DLSS set to quality, the 62 FPS it averaged on 4K ultra settings jumped to 85 FPS, which means a 38% boost in performance. So in total, I tested 15 games on the RTX 4080, and these are the average FPS on the 15 games tested on 1080p, 1440p, and 4K resolution. In comparison with other GPUs here, the RTX 4080 was way ahead of the competition. Now I do apologize if I missed some GPUs on this list, like the RTX 4070 Ti and the RTX 4090. These are the only GPUs I currently have on my inventory to test. So if you're interested to see the gameplay benchmark test of this card where I show the actual footage of the test with no commentary, I'm going to leave the link of the video down in the description. As to the FPS per dollar of the RTX 4080, it's not looking good. But I do need to mention that this metric was made with native rasterization in consideration. The FPS per dollar would certainly change if we account for DLSS 3 and frame generation. But since some of the cards here don't support those features, I only use the common denominator in comparing these GPUs, which is native rasterization. But here is where most of the RTX 4000 series GPUs shine. Its efficiency. The FPS per watt of the RTX 4080 is actually better than most of the GPUs tested here. But do take note that I only use the TDP provided by Nvidia to get the FPS per watt, which is indicated on the y-axis of the graph. The actual wattage consumption of the cards seen here will always vary depending on the settings or the game being played. So we now come to the final question: is the RTX 4080 worth the purchase? I really think it depends on the user. If your pockets are deep enough to shell out $1,000 for a single GPU, you prefer using frame generation, DLSS 3, and ray tracing, then the RTX 4080 should be a decent pickup for you. Otherwise, the other option for you on this price range would be the RX 7900 XTX, which is currently priced at around $959. Now, I currently don't have the RX 7900 XTX to make a test and comparison on, but from what I've been reading and hearing from other reviewers, the RTX 4080 trades blows with the RX 7900 XTX on native rasterization, while the RX 7900 XTX lacks the ray tracing capabilities the RTX 4080 has. Overall, if you can actually find an RTX 4080 priced at around $999, then it should be a great pickup. That's pretty much it. I would love to hear your thoughts regarding the RTX 4080 down in the comment section. So drop a like if the video helped and drop a dislike if it doesn't. Consider subscribing to the channel because it really helps us a lot. Bye!